This week's scenario is Breakdown from the 2017 Steamroller packet. This scenario does have the Killbox Artifice in effect and consists of 2 circular zones, which can be controlled for 1 CP by units, warcasters, and warlocks, and 1 rectangular zone which can be controlled for 1 CP by warjacks, warbeasts, battle engines, warcasters, and warlocks. Victory conditions consist of earning 5 more control points than your opponent, or caster assassination.
Pokey here, and I decided to pull out my Khador today and play Jaws of the Wolf. And this is a list that I kind of threw together, not doing proper research. I know, shockers that I wouldn't do proper research, but this is the list I threw together for an exploratory game into the theme.
Hello, this is Ambush W, and this week I decided to play Mortenebra 2, along with Deathjack, a bunch of Lightjacks that can fly, and some Stalkers, and a unit of Raiders to, because I need a unit of Raiders. Also some Machine Wraiths and Sirens that power my Jacks. For deployment, I first started by putting out Mortenebra and Deathjack. I'm going to take advantage of that rupple that's near me, and then I try and evenly distribute the Flying Jack Stalkers, with the Raiders going on the right so they can get around that one obstruction and have clear charge lanes.
For my deployment, I'm going to keep it mostly pretty central, so I'm going to have most of my guns in the middle. I'm going to put the Juggy on one end, and then the Kodiak on the other, to use the forest. Mostly just so I can try to have a good central location on the field. And then next are my advanced deploy units, or troops. Yuri and the Manhunters are going to go to one end to kind of work the zone. And then the Kossite Woodsmen are going to hopefully hold the other zone.
Cryx turn 1. So, first thing I notice is my opponent only has 1 model with a magic attack, which is his Warcaster. So my tactic is going to be have a Machine Wraith sit in each zone to prevent him from scoring in either, and try and make him focus his army on the center zone. So once I get done, I'll plan out how I'm going to do this. First have to start with Mortenebra, put failsafe on Deathjack, because he likes being armor 21 and having all his systems no matter how much damage he takes. Then I immediately dive into my Machine Wraith tactic. So now I got Machine Wraith in each zone. My opponent's not scoring on those zones unless he kills those Machine Wraiths with his Warcaster. And then since there's rubble nearby, I make sure to put as much as I can inside the rubble. Not Deathjack, since he doesn't have Pathfinder. Then I try and make my presence felt, at least in the 2 circular zones right away. My opponent wants to capture that zone, he's going to have to put his 1 scoring unit in the line of fire. Then if the Raiders try and run and spread out and get them past that 1 obstruction that's on my side of the board, which allows them clear charge lanes, since I'm able to get most of them by, And then, because I know my opponent's got lots of AoEs, I make sure that they chant Whipping Winds, so that they get +2 against range attacks and no blast damage. And then I move off the remaining solos.
So he's moving up the field, not as fast as I thought he was going to, but still relatively fast. Deathjack, I think, is going to be my biggest threat in this game, so I got to figure out how to neutralize him. Because unfortunately, with Morty out there, he's going to be pretty much her one heavy hitter for most of my jacks. The other guys can do scratches and dents and whatnot, but he's going to be my big one that I have to worry about. So I'm going to start with Harkevich. He is going to put mobility up. For the most part, I think that's going to be the one big spell that I keep putting up for the most part for him, is mobility. So he does that, and he gets into the rubble. The Juggernaut, my plan for this list was that the Juggernaut would stay close to give Iron Sentinel to Harkevich, and also kind of work as a protector for him, because most of the rest of the Jacks have some kind of ranged or offensive ability. The Destroyer, and Black Ivan, and of course Behemoth, they all have the bombard cannons, and then the Kodiak has his vent steam ability. So the only one that really kind of has a limited ability is going to be the Juggernaut. So his whole idea, the whole idea of having him in this list, is so that he can be basically a protector for Harkevich. Now, what you've missed so far from me talking is I've moved up the Juggernaut to protect Harkevich. I brought up the Destroyer for trying to take a pot shot. It has a 4-inch AoE. I was hoping to get a decent roll, maybe a decent scatter, do some damage to those light jacks. Once it finished, I was able to use the Field Marshal ability of reposition. So it was able to get up there and protect Harkevich a little bit more from the one side. Kodiak basically just ran forward to get partially in the trees. Unfortunately, he was outside of the range of the mobility, so he just did a normal run. And then I ran both the Behemoth and the Black Ivan up. Now I'm activating the Kossite Woodsmen, or I may end up calling them the Hillbilly backup in this game. But they run up. They're basically in the list, this list anyways, to kind of be an annoyance, to tie things up. And then Yuri and the other Manhunter advance.
Cryx turn 2. So my opponent advanced as far as he could. A couple of his jacks went further than I expected. For some reason I keep forgetting about the heavy boiler on the Kodiak. So that guy normally goes faster than I expect, but he ain't running the full distance. But that's neither here nor there. At this point, gotta lay out my plan. First thing is first. I see my opponent has bunched up his infantry, and I know I got a Shrike nearby. So I'm thinking I can get a Shrike into that infantry and start chipping away his infantry, so it frees up what I am able to do with my Machine Wraith. Because one thing I love to do with my Machine Wraith is play them offensively. Instead of sitting in the zone denying points to my opponent, I want to use them, take control of my opponent's jacks, and do stuff. But I guess first things first, gotta get rid of the models my opponent's trying to jam me with. And which is an excellent use for Scavenger. Yeah, make sure you allocate them focus, they're able to take out solos, and then because they get sprint, they can go back to where they started from, instead of clogging my own charge lanes. So, move up Mortenebra into the rubble, because she likes being very high defense. Then I go ahead and use locomotion to move up my Shrike. Because, man, I'm going to go after that infantry unit if I can. So I'll try and figure out a landing spot for my Shrike. But before I do that, why not? My Deathripper is in the area. Let him attack a guy. If he kills a guy, yay. If not, oh well. But he managed to actually hit something. One thing I'm going to be wary of is I'm pretty sure my opponent is going to feat next turn because his jacks were up on within about 18 inches away. I think it's a good spot for him to feat and increase his armor to stupid, ridiculous levels and then just sit there. Because even though the Raiders have feedback, dice minus 1,000, they're not doing much damage. But while I'm mulling over what my opponent's going to do, I continue to work out where my Shrike can and cannot go. So naturally, I'd love it if he can get all the way to the side of my opponent's unit and take out everyone, but he can't, even with locomotion. And so I settle for 4 guys. yes, after the fact, he kills some guys, and I realized after the fact, well, not really after the fact, but needless to say, I know I'm losing that guy because I put him right next to a Juggernaut. But I figure if my opponent is going to pull a Juggernaut over towards that Shrike, that's one less Jack around his caster. Because my list is not necessarily geared to taking on this much armor, I kind of have to focus and figure out how to get my opponent's caster. So Mortenebra is kind of in a good spot to where she probably doesn't need to advance anymore. And my jacks are fast enough, talking about the flying ones, to where they can get to where I need to. And if I advance Mortenebra, that puts her feet range across the other side of the zone, which is awesome. So as I'm continuing to work on that hillbilly backup unit, the Kossite Woodsmen, I like hillbilly backup much better. I'm trying to figure out where my opponent's going to go. I'm trying to lead his jacks to places where I don't have to take on everyone at the same time. If I could get 1 or 2 jacks at a time, that's preferable, since I only have 1 heavy. And I'm still rolling dice minus 3 or 4. See, POW 18 to armor 20, I think all of them. So under feet, they go up to... So dice minus 4, I believe. So Deathjack doesn't like doing that. So I need to break him up. So I put Deathjack on the spot where I think I can use him next turn. Still got that locomotion to give him the extra 3 inches left or right to take on whichever jack my opponent throws at me. Naturally speaking, with Curse of Shadows, I'm going to go after only 1 jack, because I can only have 1 upkeep and play at a time. So we're trying to mitigate that some. I'm going to sacrifice a few of the raiders to, try and get threaten my opponent's charge lines. If that lacerator, then having 2 inches, they'll be able to hopefully trip up someone. Then I also want to take out Yuri, because Yuri's got Thresher, and last time Yuri saw 3 or 4 raiders, he killed 3 or 4 raiders. So that guy's got to go. Luckily I hit him. He didn't make his tough check. The zone would have been mine if I had put everyone in the zone, but I did not. However, seeing where my opponent's caster is, I did advance my Machine Wraith on the far side to a better location.
Alright, turn 2. A little bit more casualties in the Kossite Woodsman than I was hoping for. Forgot how many sprays he could actually have in this list. Or how many sprays they have the ability to have in Cryx. That was pretty bad placement on my part. I should have spread them out a little bit more. But I still have some in there, and for the most part, they should. If I could do things right, they're going to be free here in a minute to hopefully, fail to kill something or damage something in a minute. So right now, my plan, my turn, I have to kind of work it through to figure out exactly what I need to do, because I know I want to start dropping some of these lights. And if I could start dropping some of the lights without exposing any of my heavies, that'd be great. So I know I need cast mobility, and then I need to figure out who's going to do what to where to get the Kodiak up into the 1 bird jack. And with any luck, I will be able to use my bombards this turn to do a little bit more damage. So plan currently is Kodiak goes into the bird, the Juggernaut probably goes into the bird in the bottom zone that's occupying the Kossites, and then the Juggernaut's what the Juggernaut does. The Destroyer will probably move forward, hide behind the building, and hopefully work as a screen for Harkevich, because it'd be good that way. So Next thing, I pretty much strip myself bare because I know I have to cast mobility. So I take the Destroyer first. Destroyer can draw a line of sight to Deathjack. I figure, why not? Go ahead and pop a shot. You know, try and go around the edge of the building there. Let's, you know, so I boosted the to hit, and now I get to boost the damage. So I did some damage to him, not a whole bunch though. Then he gets his reposition 3 because of the Field Marshal ability with Harkevich. And now I reposition him out of the way so he cannot be seen by Deathjack. So Deathjack cannot charge him or anything else. Now I activate Harkevich. First thing I do is cast mobility, and then he pops his feet. And then I move him around to the backside to, once again, gain the benefit of Iron Sentinel. And there is a little bit of a gap, so he's using his hand cannon to take a shot at the little chicken. I don't think I do any damage to it, but I have no focus to boost, so kind of a moot point for me. Now I'm trying to figure out, can the dog get to the Siren? Because my thought was, well, he's part of the battle group, he benefits from mobility, but unfortunately he's an attachment, not part of the battle group. So kind of a little different story, so he kind of falls short for that charge. So now it's like, well, do I have him go charge the bone chicken down there, take a bite out of him, and then return, which he completely fails, but he still gets the return, so he returns out of the way of the Juggernaut, who is, you know, benefiting under the mobility, and it charges the bone chicken. Now it has its axe and the fist. So we start with the axe, of course, because it's a charge attack, so why not? And I get a crit, so boom, it's frozen. But unfortunately I rolled really low, but it's a POW 19, so it's got a hefty amount of damage even with that low of a die roll. I get my reposition 3, and my intent is to keep him away from the dog or Harkevich, because my worry is that machine wraiths don't come in, take it over, move him over, and swing on either the dog or Harkevich. So I move him out of the way so he's hopefully not going to be affected by that. Now, the Kossite Woodsmen, aka Hillbilly Backup, they charge in because they have Tree Walker due to Yuri the Axe. And they charge in, I think there's 4 of them on the Siren, and 1 on the Arknode Bone Chicken. And pretty much they epically fail all the way around. So then Yuri activates, he advances up, he does a Thresher, so he can swing on both of the, whatever those chicks are. He hits one, fails to hit the other, but that's okay, because, well, he's still there, he's still locked in. Not an issue. Now I activate the Kodiak, who charges up. And we failed to check if he would have gotten a free strike from the advance before I moved the model. I was getting ahead of myself. It was a bad play on my side. But the bonus for Iron Lich is the fact that he does get a cover bonus from the building, because I couldn't get far enough over to to clear the building, clear their base in the building. So I'm basically boosting both of my swings, both of my attacks, because my mat is relatively, it's good, you know, at mat 7, but those little bone chickens, they're like base 14 or 15, and then you get the wall bonus, which makes it up to like a 16. You know, it just makes it tough. So boosting, and then as my final ability, I vented steam, because it's just something I can do no matter what. So I vented steam, was able to kill it with the vent steam, because the vent steam is a POW 12, so that's always a good thing. And then I repositioned on the back side of that cloud because the vent steam works as a cloud. So he was able to reposition back. So with that, I was able to get him out of the way and not be seen by Deathjack. So I'm still going with the premise of making sure Deathjack can't see anybody. So the Behemoth comes around and he takes a shot at one of those little bone jacks, the flying winged things, and unfortunately it misses, it scatters, and it still hits the little Stalker guy or whatever it is. Does a little bit of damage to him, but not much. And then the next one, the second bombard cannon, kind of goes off harmless, aimless, out to the middle of nowhere. And then once the Behemoth's done, it does its 3-inch reposition into the rubble, because, well, why not? Getting it back out of the way. And now Black Ivan I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with Black Ivan, because I need to, figure it out. So, that made no sense. Alright, so basically he just took a shot. He has the ability to shoot before he charges. So he shot at one of the Satyxis, was able to hit, kill her, charged another one, was able to kill her, and then repositioned backwards.
Cryx turn 3. So my opponent, he did kind of break up his jacks as I was hoping. But now, of course, I'm thinking offensively. I'm like, hoping I might be able to get a few guys on his caster. But I'm also kind of unhappy because a random deviation floated off of a Shrike and right onto a Stalker. And of course, enough damage was done to completely take out the cortex of the Stalker that I wanted to use. So I was somewhat not happy with that moment. So I'm trying to hatch a second plan, because the Stalker that I had way in the back somehow became useless to me. My opponent advanced his Hillbilly back up and started to tie up a bunch of things I had in the zone. They weren't particularly being threatened in terms of dying, but they were in the way, so they had to go. So as I'm trying to guesstimate where Deathjack would go, trying to see, now get a rough idea. I think Deathjack with Locomotion can get into combat with my opponent's Warcaster, provided I can move the Destroyer and the War Dog. And all this is under feet, of course. So I start with something easy. I start with Machine Wraith on far zone. I go after Black Ivan. I successfully hit Black Ivan. I even do damage to him, which I didn't want to do. I just wanted to take control of him. So I move Black Ivan, full distance, make sure I get behind the War Dog, and I go after that War Dog because that dude is annoying, countercharging, messing up my jacks. Oh, there's nothing more warning than killing a War Dog other than killing a caster. Of course, he passes tough check. That's okay. He's got no more tough checks. He's on the ground. So now I just need to figure out how to get rid of him. Need to hit him with something. So this is where I'm starting to think of the second Machine Wraith. If I get the second Machine Wraith in there, I can move that Destroyer, but placing's critical. So while I'm kind of working that out in my mind, I send the Raiders after Yuri, who I thought I killed last turn, but now I realize was the other Manhunter. And I put everyone on Yuri. And I throw a few other ladies at the Jacks just to tie him up. I mean, if a Raider's if you're taking a free strike from a Raider, I'm not hoping to do damage, I'm hoping to knock you down. Then a team of 4 raiders manages to get rid of Yuri. So, moral victory, Yuri's gone. Of course, then it takes a ridiculous amount of attacks to do it. Alright, so moving on to the plan that I initially had. I ended up doing some damage to the Kodiak. That was like, bonus damage, but I wasn't too concerned about that. So plan 1 is moving that destroyer. But one thing I know I gotta be careful of is I don't want to put the Machine Wraith in base to base with that destroyer, because if I do that, the Machine Wraith is gonna lose incorporeal when he makes the attack. Then he'll be stuck there. So while I continue to work on the positioning, I turn my immediate attention back to the remaining units of the Kossite Woodsmen, and I try and chip away and clear them and just unjam the whole thing that's going on right there. So Deathripper manages to kill a second guy. He's exceeding expectations now. And then once there's enough space, I bring in the useless Stalker and just have him do his random attacks on the Kossite. So despite not having a Cortex, he still kills a couple guys, which makes me happy. Now that I've killed a few of the Woodsmen, got them out of the way, I go ahead and advance my Siren. He's going to spray and take out that evil little war dog that's on the ground. So yes, I hit him. He takes damage. There's no more tough checks. I now have a little bit more maneuverability on controlling that destroyer, assuming I hit, and then moving him out of the way. So as I'm putting down the token where I think Deathjack can go, and make sure I leave enough space to move the destroyer, because it's happened in the past to where I will have an excellent assassination run where the dice actually say I should be successful, and I just jam up my own charge lane. So I'm trying to pay particular attention to my placement here. So I take the Machine Wraith to the edge of his melee range. I hit my opponent's destroyer. I do a lot more damage. Machine Wraiths are really pulling their weight in terms of damage here. And I move the destroyer. Check to see if I get him behind Harkevich, but don't think it's it's tough to say. The position me and my opponent worked out gave him the back arc, but I rolled high enough to where I didn't need it. And so he hit him and did 2 points of damage. So then I go ahead and run a Scavenger over to melee range of Harkevich, advance Mortenebra to where I can get the necessary range. Unfortunately, her feet is only command range, so it's only 9 inches. So I move Deathjack, pop feet, kill a random Kossite Woodsman with her melee attack, and then just sit there. Activate Deathjack, have him inch his way around the building. So I end up having to really inch his way around the building. Then he gets in melee with Harkevich. And just go to town with Mortenebra's feet, which gains flank with other warjacks. Deathjack's hitting that effective Mat 10. POW 18 with a 3rd damage die. So it's pretty good, and Deathjack ends up taking out Harkevich with his initial attacks.
Alright, some afterthoughts. Alright, it wasn't until after this game that I actually sat down and talked to some of the other guys in the group and realized that for this list, for the Jaws of the Wolf tier list, theme list, I really shouldn't have had the configuration I had. It was interesting. I thought it had merits, but it wasn't the best possible list. Mostly because Kossites. I still think that they have potential, just maybe not into Cryx. So, the next time you're going to see a Jaws the Wolf list from me, hopefully you'll enjoy a little bit more. I will have the preferred, what is known as the preferred list with the Batter Santas. Either just in the list or Jack Marshalling. And hopefully it'll work out better next time. Thank you very much for watching, and hope you all enjoyed it.